Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inside Winston Cup Racing. Today, we're in Archdale, North Carolina, not too far from Greensboro. We're in the shops of Steve Grissom, where they build the Channel Lock Chevrolets that Steve drives in the NASCAR Busch Series. And Steve is part of our program today, and we have much more in this half hour of Inside Winston Cup Racing.
Steve Grissom left a promising future in football to tackle a career in racing. Today, his drive for success is fueled by a special relationship with his father and his family.
Bobby Hillin's career has been a roller coaster ride of success and disappointment. But today, this veteran driver is sitting in a solid seat, the seat of Junie Donlevy's Heilig Myers Fords. We'll talk to the team about its ambitions as the season gets underway.
A field of 44 cars packed the track at Rockingham for a final test session prior to the Goodwrench 500. It was a day for man, machine, and the media, reflecting on Daytona and looking forward to the rest of the racing season.
Inside Winston Cup Racing is brought to you by cold-filtered Miller Genuine Draft and Miller Genuine Draft Light, taking the country by storm. Goodyear, #1 in tires. And by Hillin Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car.
Miller Genuine Draft Rusty Wallace stock car. He's back, tearing up a track near you.
Spread the word around. Guess who's back in town?
Remember those old dirt tracks, AJ? The dirt would just eat up the engines.
Two champions sharing a winning formula. Hillin Formula 3.
My favorite win was going to be in '69. I had to give it to you. You shouldn't have even made a half a lap.
Complete professionals who rely on the same complete protection you can buy right off the shelf. Hillin Formula 3 Motor Oil from Texaco.
Heck, I still feel if I can't win, I don't want nobody to win. I'll try to remember that, AJ. Do that.
Imagine this is a sidewall of a tire. The whole idea is to keep the tread area in level contact with the road, or you'll lose traction, especially in cornering. Now, Goodyear has learned a lot in Turn 1 at Indy and applied that knowledge to Eagle street radials. In cornering, there's a lot of force trying to lift the tire, but Goodyear Eagle's racing-inspired sidewall design works to hold the tire firmly to the road. Eagle radials, only from Goodyear. We like to say the best tires in the world have Goodyear written all over them.
Hi there, Norm, your TNN Outdoors guy. This week, a new time for in-fishermen, and Al Linder's got walleye on the wire. Bill Dance Outdoors changes time a little and unveils a top-secret lure. Hank Parker joins in on the time move for this week with a trout trip with Ranger Boats Forest Wood. You should catch the best and watch TNN Outdoors. Tonight on a special time starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. And may the time change not affect your fishing.
Steve Grissom from Gadsden, Alabama, was very successful in short track racing around the southeastern part of the United States before he moved into the Busch Grand National Series about 5 years ago. And he has had a lot of success in the Busch Series and has had some downfalls along the way, as most other drivers have had too. Of course, his goal is to win the championship in the Busch Series. And he's off to a good start in 1993, and we had an opportunity to sit down and talk to him as the season gets underway.
The first race I went to, I guess 4 or 5 years old, I knew that's what I wanted to do. Played sports and all through high school and stuff, but I always knew racing is what I wanted to do. And as I got old enough to start driving, I started racing. And then you know, had the opportunity maybe to play some football, but I made my mind up. Racing's what I wanted to do, and here we are.
Today, Steve Grissom is quarterbacking his own team on the Busch Grand National Circuit. The 29-year-old hails from the racing-rich soil of Alabama, where he and his two older brothers caught racing fever at an early age. But while Steve and his brothers had the desire to race, their father confessed his boys knew nothing about how to field a car when they began their career on the Alabama dirt tracks.
He's exactly right. I mean, absolutely nothing. It was one of those things, he started sponsoring some cars there as local on the dirt tracks and stuff, and us kind of growing up with it. And then as my brothers got old enough to start driving and racing, they started, and then as I got old enough, I started. So pretty much where we got where we are on our own.
Now, don't mistake Grissom's quiet and casual style for an aloof approach to racing. Nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, Steve's friendly nature is simply hidden in the shadow of his laser-sharp focus on the sport. He's posted 6 career victories, including 4 during a torrid 1990 season that included 11 top 5s and 15 top 10 finishes. But
I'll tell you, since then, we've kind of got caught up in a couple of things. We started in 1991 without sponsorship and went to April without sponsorship, and then it's just kind of been an uphill struggle all the way.
Grissom grabbed 1 win in 1991, and his lone victory in 1992 came in a wild, caution-filled affair at Volusia County.
Well, it sure was. It was kind of one of those days that the track conditions kind of went away for us, and you know, the racing kind of went out the window, and it was basically a track position and then survival type race. But fortunately, we were able to come out with a win. And as far as 1992, it was just one of those years that if it could go wrong, it went wrong. And we just kind of had to regroup over the winter, and we got some new race cars, got some new motors, new motor program. And, you know, we're just looking forward to 93.
Steve's father is also looking forward to the future. While his 2 oldest sons have retired from racing cars to the family-owned business of selling cars, Wayne has moved into the racing business as Steve's car owner. Would you say that there's racing in the Grissom family blood? Is that where it comes from?
All the way. There's you know, the boy's mother and myself and the 3 boys, and all of us are totally dedicated 100% racers. I mean, we love it just as much as any people in the world could, Bill.
When we were going to school and stuff, after football practice, me and my 2 brothers, we'd leave and go work on the race cars at night or be out at the shop. It's just something we've always been around, and on the weekends we were always at the races. And it's just something we've always done together. And then when my wife and I got married, she just fell right in there and has been a big supporter. And then here 3 years ago we had our first child, and I tell you, he's been right in the middle of it, and there's not a day goes by that he don't come to the shop, and he's got to mess with something when he's there.
Today, Steve and his father continue to share that special racing relationship. Having his dad at the track is still important to Steve.
Well, it is. I tell you, in this business, you kind of find out who your friends are, and I tell you, it's super to have family with you. Daddy, he's there. On good days, he's there, and on bad days, he's there, and he don't never change. We always just load up, go home, and, you know, look forward to next week, and he's always there giving us moral support and stuff.
And for Wayne Grissom, there are those special moments and memories, too, like a Saturday afternoon in Rockingham in 1990.
We had to pass, after the last pit stop, you know, some of the prominent Winston Cup guys, and our car was going down to the bottom and coming right on by, and I remember the announcer saying Grissom's going to go into second place. No, he's going into the lead, you know, so that's exciting to me.
Is that what makes it all worthwhile, those moments?
I guess so. It makes the adrenaline flow, you know, and nothing pleases a dad more than to have success, any amount of success for the children, you know, because we as parents are always the proudest of our children of anything else, and that's what our lives are all built around.
Well, I can certainly understand how Wayne feels, and he should be proud. I'm still on cloud 9 after Dale's big win at Daytona. We need to take a short break. Still to come on this edition of Inside Winston Cup Racing, we'll talk with Bobby Hillin, and we'll also follow the test session at Rockingham. So you stay with us.
Today's NASCAR news brought to you by Texaco Hillin. Add more life to your car.
The Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company announced this past week that the NASCAR Winston Cup Series continues to lead all forms of motorsports in total attendance, drawing 3,699,833 fans to 29 events in 1992. It was an increase of 9.5% over 1991. Average attendance for Winston Cup races was a record-breaking 127,580 per event, up from 116,450 in 1991.
WD brand beef is raised in the West, but it's fluent in a lot of languages. WD brand beef from Winn-Dixie, the beef people.
Remember those old dirt tracks, AJ? The dirt would just heat up the engines.
Two champions sharing a winning formula. Haviland Formula 3.
My favorite win was going to be in '69. I had to give it to you. You shouldn't have even made a half a lap.
Complete professionals who rely on the same complete protection you can buy right off the shelf. Haviland Formula 3 motor oil from Texaco.
Heck, I still feel if I can't win, I don't want nobody to win. I'll try to remember that, AJ. Do that.
The higher you go, the more power you need. That's why up here, they depend on the most horsepower ever in a turbo diesel pickup. Chevrolet, the most dependable, longest-lasting trucks on the road.
What drives Darrell Waltrip?
I like to compete against the other guys. Your skills against the other guys' skills. Out-drive, out-think, out-smart, whatever. It's a real chess game for me, and I get a big thrill out of that. I love racing. I can't think of a better way to make a living. I never want to do anything else.
Darrell Waltrip and TNN Motorsports. When it comes to live NASCAR racing, no one plays as hard.
Power plays on TNN Motorsports.
Coming up tonight on race day, we'll have the wrap-up of the big day of racing here in Miami, where the Toyota Grand Prix was run this afternoon. You'll hear from the winner, along with some of the event's other standouts. Plus, we'll check in on the oval track action from the land down under. It's IMSA's big day in the streets of Miami later on race day. Join us.
Race Day, second edition, 8:30 p.m. Eastern today on TNN Motorsports.
Bobby Hillin Jr. came into the NASCAR Winston Cup Series back in 1982. He was only 17 years old when he drove his first race at North Wilkes-Barre, North Carolina. In fact, he was still a senior in high school. And then things started going upward for him. He got a full-time ride. He won the Die Hard 500 at Talladega back in 1986, and things just seemed to be spiraling in every direction. And then 2 years ago, he lost his full-time ride, and in 1991 and 1992, he only ran sparingly in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series, but this year, he's back with a full-time ride, with a good sponsor and a good team. Randy had an opportunity recently to sit down and talk to Hillin.
In 1986, Bobby Hillin became the youngest driver to ever capture a Winston Cup Series points race when he piloted the Stavola Brothers Buick to victory in the Die Hard 500 at Talladega. He was just 22 years old. But that was to be his one and only victory to date. His career since that time has been filled with rejection and disappointment as he's tried to carve out a career on the tough Winston Cup circuit. After driving several races for the fledgling Martin Bahrain team in 1992, that too turned to disappointment when the team folded before the season's halfway mark. But as some doors close, others soon open. After Davey Allison suffered multiple injuries at Pocono last year, Hillin got the call to take the controls of the Haviland team at Talladega. Bobby proved worthy of the top-notch ride by finishing third in the Die Hard 500, which ultimately led him to the seat of the Junie Donlavey Fords in 1993. Now, 7 years later, after he first visited Victory Lane, Hillin has all the critical components to continue his quest for a second checkered flag.
Well, I'm definitely excited about it. You know, being out of the garage area and not being able to run the full circuit for a couple of years gives you a renewed appreciation for it. And, you know, I've always heard people say that when they're on the outside looking in, it makes them feel a lot different about the sport, and that's true. You know, watching races on TV at home and not being able to be there really makes you appreciate it. So this is a great deal, and I'm looking forward to being with these people this year.
Hillin should feel more comfortable than ever this season, sitting in the solid seat of the Junie Donlavey Ford and with strong backing from the Heilig-Myers Furniture Company.
Today we're happier than we've ever been as far as having someone on our car that we can really, really be proud of, and they're such nice people, and Heilig-Myers has just got to be the best in the business.
What about, you brought along a lot of rookies, Junie, but I'll tell you what, you've got a veteran in that seat now that is probably ready to show some people something.
You know, that's the way we figured. Here we've got a 28-year-old driver that's got over 11 years of experience. Basically, we've always had either 40-year-old drivers with a lot of experience that they try to help us, or we've got a young rookie with no experience, so we really feel good about Bobby.
Along with Hillin, Junie has secured the services of veteran crew chief Doug Williams. And like Hillin, Doug feels he has something to prove after a rocky road the past few years. And together, they just might do it.
Bobby has got a good feel for a race car, good feedback. He knows what he wants. We work good together. He's got a wonderful attitude. He's got experience that people don't realize he's got. You know, he's probably got 8 or 9 years of experience of all the tracks, so we don't have to go through the deal of going through with a rookie and trying to learn each other and learn the racetrack. So it's a big plus for both of us, and we got the banjo front steers that we've got to try to figure out, and I think you'll see some good things out of this team.
Bobby Hillin's strive for the ever-elusive checkered flag is without a doubt foremost in his mind. But he also believes that his past successes and failures have helped him build the type of personal conviction it takes to be a champion.
You know, one of the things that it takes is a killer instinct. You know, you got to have that killer instinct, and I feel like I certainly have the killer instinct to be a Winston Cup champion. But it also takes a talent, it takes a work ethic. You can't just expect it to happen. You've got to go after it. You've got to work hard every minute on and off the racetrack. And, you know, we can all, there are a lot of great drivers on the racetrack, but the difference is the best drivers know how to get themselves in the best cars, and that means making a deal with the best people, working with the people the best, and getting all your people going in the same direction and not letting anything slip through the cracks. And I think that's what it takes to be a Winston Cup champion.
Well, if they can bypass the misfortunes like they had at Daytona, look for the Junie Donlevy, Heilig-Myers, Bobby Hillin team to be tough in 1993. They're certainly pumped up. Well, we need to take a short break right now. When we come back, we'll take a look at the testing that went on at Rockingham before they moved in there for the big races this weekend, and we'll also have the mailbox. You stay with us.
Over 30 Winston Cup teams traveled to the track in Rockingham for a final test session prior to the Goodwrench 500. We'll take you into the garage for a behind-the-scenes look coming up next.
Miller Genuine Draft.
I was hoping you'd say that.
Cold-filtered Miller Genuine Draft. For those who've discovered its smooth draft taste, the world is a very cool place.
Remember those old dirt tracks, AJ? The dirt would just eat up the engines.
2 champions sharing a winning formula. Haviland Formula 3.
My favorite win was going to be in '69. I had to give it to you. You shouldn't have even made a half a lap.
Complete professionals who rely on the same complete protection you can buy right off the shelf. Haviland Formula 3 motor oil from Texaco.
Heck, I still feel if I can't win, I don't want nobody to win. I'll try to remember that, AJ. Do that.
Your first big snow, Joey. Here he comes.
Joey doesn't care that inside is the world's most energy-efficient furnace.
Here he comes. Here he comes.
Or that Carrier can save up to 40% annually on heating.
Look at him. He loves it.
All he cares about is how warm and comfy Carrier keeps it inside.
Joe?
If you care about energy efficiency and saving money, call your Carrier dealer.
Turn the knob, Joey.
Carrier, we're the inside guys.
If you want to reel in those big fish, why not learn from the best, the pros on TNN's Outdoors blog?
The TNN Outdoors Fishing Contest gives you the chance to win a trip for two to Nashville to compete in a fishing tournament as Roland Martin's partner. Plus, you could win $500 worth of merchandise from Bass Pro Shops catalog. And the grand prize for the winner of the tournament is a fishing rig worth $20,000. To enter, send a postcard with your name, address, and phone number to this address. Get your entries to us by April 4th and be sure to put Roland Martin's name on the card. We'll announce the winners April 10th and 11th on all TNN fishing shows.
He is the hands on the clock of country music, and tonight we're going to find out what makes that man tick.
The man of the hour is Ralph Emery, when rock and roll's own host with the most, Dick Clark, asks the questions. Ralph Emery on the record, Monday. Bill Elliott started a streak of 4 consecutive victories with his win in the GM's Goodwrench 500 last year. Elliott and all the rest of the Winston Cup drivers are looking for race record speeds, as pole qualifying is expected to go over 150 miles an hour for the first time ever. All the highlights from the Rock next week.
1 year ago, Ward Burton picked up his first career Busch Grand National victory with a win at the Rock. Now Burton is back to defend his championship, and we'll have all the highlights of the Goodwrench 200.
The Daytona 500 by STP, of course, is the first race of the year, and if you can come out of there with a good finish high up in the points, that's great. But if you finish pretty far down the line, then you want to get back on track and try to move up in the points in the next race. Every event pays exactly the same number of points, and that's why so many teams went to Rockingham after the race at Daytona to test, and we went along with them.
The North Carolina Motor Speedway, the Rock as it's called, has always been a hotbed of testing after the Winston Cup teams turn in their restrictor plates from speed weeks. The glitz and glamour of Daytona are all gone, and it's time to grind it out for 492 laps in 500 miles. While Daytona is just a memory for most in the Winston Cup garage area, they're quickly reminded by the media as if Daytona has just received the checkered flag.
Can't get any work done, can you, with all these guys keep coming up and congratulating you? Are you still pinching yourself? I'm not complaining. Not one bit. That's, I ain't going to complain till...
I was in his boat, I'd want everybody here to talk to me.
Yeah, exactly.
If
Exactly.
they didn't, I would be mad then.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to get work done, but it's a problem I like to deal with. I like to have this problem more often.
Rusty Wallace was also happy to be talking to friends and the media after his near-tragic wreck at Daytona.
Yeah, I'm fine. I just got a little bit of... I thought I was fine until I got in the car, and then my ribs started hurting from being beat around the seat, I guess. So I'm just a little sore down there, and got the flu at the same time, so I'm kind of beat up and kicked around, but I'm alive and I'm not broke.
Kyle Petty is certainly not broke either. Although his chances at $1 million bonus went out the window with a crash in the 500, he's more than comfortable coming back to the Rock, a track that he scaled to the top of the all-time money list with $750,000 in earnings and 3 victories.
It's a little bit different car, but you come down here with a Pontiac this year compared to what we run last year. We got a new nose, we got a new tail section, we've got a different quarter panel height, where most of these cars are just coming in with new noses, so they're only having to work with one aspect of it, where, we're having to work with 2 or 3 aspects, and it's been a little bit trying some this morning.
If you're not so great right now, how come you guys got it covered up? You're the only ones in the garage.
We want to keep it warm. Anytime you bring your car to Rockingham with the way we run here, that's your baby, so you have to look after it.
With Petty's success at the Rock recently, it has caused a traffic jam at testing. There were over 30 Winston Cup teams on hand, causing a handful of work for the track promoters, but it's something they're happy to do for the Winston Cup team.
What other things do you guys have to do? I mean, obviously, you have to supply food. You have to make sure ambulance attendance is here. What other things that you have to do to make sure that this all comes off well?
The food in the ambulance, the hospital staff, we have guards come in. We work with the Goodyear people to get tires supplied. We work with NASCAR to get a flagman. There's a lot of things behind the scenes that the fans don't see.
Another thing the fans have never seen before is Rookie of the Year contender Jeff Gordon in a Cup car at Rockingham, which is understandable because he's never been in one at the Rock before.
And they're very similar to the Busch cars, but, they're just very temperamental at a place like this. And this is, where it's going to be difficult, a place like Rockingham and Phoenix and some of these flatter, shorter tracks, you know, Daytona and Talladega, you don't notice as much of a difference, but places like this, you do.
Just about everyone, that is anyone, was there. Earnhardt brought 2 Cup cars plus a Busch Grand National car. Darrell Waltrip was sporting 2 cars, this one just out of the fab shop. Kawicki was there, as usual, all business. But it was the rookies that appeared to be under the most pressure. And if they weren't going to let you know about it.
I think we're okay. We're doing some long runs on old tires, trying to get an idea of what the car's going to do during the race. And according to what we see other people doing, I think we're okay.
If there was any indication of who might be the best at the Rockingham test, the stopwatch ultimately showed Ernie Irvan. But the crew members indicated Dale Earnhardt and Kyle Petty. Both packed up their cars and parts at 3 o'clock. The test didn't receive the red flag until 5.
Today's Mailbox is brought to you by Miller Genuine Draft.
Our question today is from our voicemail from Stephen Beal from Garland, Texas.
Do they still vary the tire pressure on the tires versus the radials versus the bi-ply tires?
Stephen, that's a good question. When we run the bi-ply tires, we adjusted air pressure for stagger purposes. Now with the Goodyear radials, the stagger is preset, so the only time we adjust the air pressure is when we need to change a spring rate during the race or in practice.
If you have any race questions or would like to hear Winston Cup pole qualifying results, race results, or point standings, call us at 1-900-73-RACES. Charge is 95 cents per minute. Average call 2 minutes for the mailbox or 3 minutes for results. Fans 18 and under, get your parents' permission before calling. If we use your question on the air, you'll receive this embroidered Miller Genuine Draft jacket. You'll also receive a copy of NASCAR videos, A Week in the Life of a Race Team. One of the latest volumes in the exciting series, bringing the NASCAR lifestyle roaring into your living room.
Well, our time's up for today. Hope you enjoyed the show, and our thanks to Steve Grissom and the Channel Lock folks for allowing us to come in their shops. And you be sure to join us here next week on TNN when we'll have highlights of all the races from Rockingham. We'll see you next week right here.
Inside Winston Cup Racing has been brought to you by cold-filtered Miller Genuine Draft and Miller Genuine Draft Light, taking the country by storm. Goodyear, #1 in tires. And by Hillin Formula 3 motor oil. Add more life to your car. Ground transportation for the Inside Winston Cup Racing crew provided by Mark III Luxury Vans and Trucks, the official vans and trucks of NASCAR. Clothing for the Inside Winston Cup Racing crew provided by Simpson Race Products, where innovation never stops.